We've all heard the narrative. Gypsy Rose, the victim of a lifetime of abuse, plots her escape with the help of her boyfriend, Nick Godijon, who ultimately murders her mother, Dee Dee. But when you start digging into the evidence, like Gypsy's online search history, forensic details, and conflicting timelines, you realize there's a lot we haven't been told. What if Gypsy played a much bigger role than she let on? What if Nick didn't act alone? What if Dee Dee wasn't even killed where we thought she was? Stick around, because once you hear the details from police reports, trial testimony, and even the autopsy, you might start questioning everything you thought you knew about this case.
At some point, you decided to kill your mother, is that correct?
Yes.
When was that?
Thoughts of it started a year prior to the murder actually happening.
Whose idea was it to kill your mother?
Mine.
Why did you want to kill your mother?
Because I wanted to be free of her hold on me.
Did you and Nick ever talk about this?
Yes,
Who initially brought up killing your mother?
I did.
Why not just tell somebody rather than kill your mother? Why was that not an option?
I truly didn't believe that nobody would believe me if I told anyone. My mother had legal documents in place saying that I was incompetent, and I thought that meant that if I went to anyone, the police, or told anyone, she would just have them convinced that I was making everything up.
At some point after you initially considered killing your mother, did you ever change your mind?
Yes,
Do you know when that was?
about 2 weeks before it happened.
Why did you change your mind to decide not to kill her?
I started having doubts, second thoughts.
Did you ever then change your mind back to the initial decision to kill her?
Yes,
Why did you change your mind back to killing her?
my mother and I got into an argument 2 days prior to the murder occurring. And Nick asked me, are we still doing this? Am I still coming there to do this? Yes or no? And I said yes.
Gypsy has openly confessed to quite a bit over the years. She said the plan to off her mother started with her, and that she had even attempted it on her own before bringing anyone else into it. Although she claimed she was terrified of her mother, she still spent over a year mapping out exactly how to finish her off. Her mother, Dee Dee, was offed on June 9th. According to the Greene County Sheriff's report, Gypsy told detectives this directly, Nick Godijon didn't even show up until the following day, June 10th. By then, Gypsy already had an envelope prepared with his address, ready to ship him the offing device. She even researched ways to mask the smell of a not-living body covering the house, especially her mother's bed, with baby powder and dryer sheets. In court, forensic experts testified that Gypsy's DNA was found not only on the offing device, but also in the sink. She admitted the offing device was hers, and that she gave Nick detailed video instructions explaining exactly how to carry out the offing. She funded everything: his Greyhound ticket, his cab fare, his hotel, and even his food. She also searched online for methods to off someone. When Nick arrived, she let him in herself, and after the offing of Dee Dee, she said the two of them had intimate relations in her bedroom. They raided Dee Dee's safe for cash. Gypsy then covered her mother's body with blankets and placed a Barney doll beside her head. These weren't random details. Nick wouldn't have known where the blankets were or why that specific doll mattered. And despite everything, Gypsy never called the police. She didn't cry. Instead, she laughed with Nick in their hotel room the next day.
Hi, honey. I'm filming this. He's eating a brownie. But later he will be eating me.
Does any of this behavior sound like it's coming from someone who is overwhelmed with guilt or emotional trauma? Does she act like she resents Nick for carrying out the offing? Does it seem like she's mourning her mother at all, who was offed inside her own home? If anything, it looked like Gypsy was relieved and maybe even satisfied because she ended up with exactly what she wanted. Her role in her mother's offing wasn't minor, it was central. She researched how to commit an offing and avoid getting caught. She discovered that in Missouri, there wasn't a specific charge for being an accessory to offing, which may have emboldened her. She studied how to control the smell of a offed person, and it appears she was even planning to pin the whole crime on Nick. She pre-addressed the envelope to send him the offing device, and she only bought one bus ticket, just for him, to go back to Wisconsin. It's believed she had hopes of running off with another guy named Dan, but he apparently wasn't interested. Then, from Nick's computer, Gypsy typed out, "The B word is dead," knowing that law enforcement would track the IP address. She expected the police to show up, find Nick, and assume she was just another missing girl. Or worse, a victim. Everything about it reeks of calculated manipulation. And what about the evidence that's been confirmed? People following the case on web sleuths noted that someone in court shared texts from Nick's trial, where a forensic expert testified that Gypsy's DNA was found both on the offing device and in the sink. Has she ever been asked to explain that? Why did her hands still show signs of bruising days after the offing? Almost like she had been punching something, or someone. Dee Dee had a broken nose. Could Gypsy have assaulted her mother before the offing? According to the Greene County Sheriff's case file, Gypsy was wearing a shirt with what looked like red human fluid on the right shoulder. She told police the offing happened on June 9th, but strangely, she said she didn't remember the exact date, only that she was supposed to sneak out and meet Nick that night. If Dee Dee really was offed on the 9th and Nick didn't arrive until the 10th, then who was actually responsible for her offing? This story just keeps unfolding like a really dark true crime documentary, with way fewer commercial breaks. Stick around, because there's more coming. While you're here, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next twist.
To the why this happened?
I don't even really know what happened.
Okay.
I came here because my mother kicked me out of my house. She and I were having relationship problems. I guess she wanted me to stay with her girl forever. She didn't really like my boyfriend. And she was like, pretty much, if you want to move to Wisconsin with him, fine, go. And I packed my stuff. She basically wanted me out of the house before then because we kept on having arguments, but I'm not a violent person. I would never ever hurt her. And a lot of our arguments stemmed from being with Nick. And so I just basically chose to come here. I gave him money to come here, and I said, can you please come pick me up? Because my mom was kicking me out of the house real soon. And that's when he asked his mom, could I stay with his mom and him and his stepdad and his little brother? His mom said fine. So anyway, I don't exactly know the exact date he came to Springfield, but I know that I gave him the money to stay at a hotel. And anyway, I let him know that...
Hey, hang on a minute, okay? We're going in a totally different direction here, okay? We're going to get back to where we started from, okay? You listen to me, okay? Let's get back to the why.
Now, nearly a decade after Dee Dee Blanchard's death, and with all these lingering questions about what really happened that night, Gypsy Rose has managed to draw even more attention to herself, and not in a good way. On the exact 10-year anniversary of her mother's brutal murder, instead of showing any real reflection or remorse, Gypsy decided to turn the day into a celebration of herself. She posted on Instagram, sharing a throwback photo of her and Ken holding a sonogram of their daughter Aurora. At first glance, it might seem like a sentimental moment, but look closer. This wasn't just any random post. This was a deliberate move to tie a personal milestone, Aurora's first sonogram, to the anniversary of her mother's murder, the same mother whose death she helped plan. In the caption, Gypsy wrote, "One day, two meanings. 1 year ago, we saw Aurora for the first time in this sonogram, and my heart has never been the same. She is my light, my joy, my greatest blessing. But today also marks 10 years since the death of my mother, a woman known not for love, but for the abuse she inflicted on me. That pain shaped my life in ways that led to tragic choices and consequences we both can never get back. I may carry the past, but she, Aurora, carries my future. It sounds poetic on the surface, but once again, it's all about her. There's no apology, no genuine grief, no acknowledgement of Dee Dee's humanity, even in death. Whether you believe Dee Dee was abusive or not, the fact remains. She was killed. And on the anniversary of that murder, her daughter chose to center herself, repackage the tragedy into a new beginning story, and ignore the weight of what happened. Even the way Gypsy framed her post, "One day, two meanings," was tone deaf. It wasn't a eulogy. It wasn't an expression of regret. It was a subtle reinforcement of the same narrative she's been pushing for years, that she's the ultimate victim in this story, and we should feel inspired that she's found love, motherhood, and a new chapter. But for those of us still paying attention to the facts, the inconsistencies in her story, the unanswered questions about Dee Dee's injuries, and the very real possibility that more people may have been involved, this post didn't land as a heartfelt tribute. It read more like damage control disguised as inspiration, and a clear reminder that Gypsy Rose Blanchard still isn't telling us everything.
And because Gypsy made a post now, oh, that's breaking news.
Exactly. I didn't want to be on social media on the 10th. And so I can send you the screenshot from my phone of when I took that picture, the sonogram picture, on June 10th at 2 something in the afternoon with Ken. And I just simply posted early. I didn't want to be on social media on the 10th. So I posted the day before because both days are difficult.
The fact that you even have to address it and speak about it it infuriates me.
And they're like, you did. That proves that you did the crime. No, I just simply freaking posted early. Like, why does there have to be some big, grand conspiracy theory about this?
Because
If they followed the case,
to talk about. I mean,
if they follow the case, they have no facts.
This isn't about denying the pain Gypsy may have experienced growing up. It's about the selective memory and one-sided storytelling she continues to rely on. Time and time again, Gypsy shapes the past to fit whatever version of herself she's trying to present at the moment, whether it's the innocent victim, the misunderstood survivor, or now, the reformed mother. Instead of acknowledging the complexity of what happened, of who Dee Dee was, of what Gypsy actually did, she turned the anniversary of her mother's death into a personal rebranding event. It wasn't a day of reflection, it was a look at me now photo op, dressed up as an emotional milestone. But under all the filters and flowery language, the reality doesn't change. Someone is still dead because of Gypsy's decisions. And every time she glosses over that fact, she reminds us that accountability still isn't part of the narrative she's trying to sell. What makes all of this even harder to watch is that Gypsy still refuses to take real accountability, not even a little. She constantly redirects the spotlight back onto her trauma, her healing, her transformation, as if her journey alone is the only one that matters. But the thing is, she made choices. Her actions led to someone's death, and instead of owning that, she dodges it at every turn. No one's saying she can't be a loving mom to Aurora. No one's asking her to stop sharing happy baby updates or living her life. But what she shouldn't do is use her daughter as a shield. Aurora shouldn't be a distraction from Gypsy's past. She's not a PR tool, but that's exactly how she's being positioned. A prop in Gypsy's ongoing campaign to rebrand herself as a survivor, a mother, a phoenix rising from the ashes. And once again, Dee Dee's life is reduced to a side note in that narrative.
Last year, Gypsy was telling creators that the anniversary of her mother's death is actually tomorrow on June the 10th. There has been a lot of confusion surrounding the actual day of Dee Dee's demise because Google lists it as June the 9th, 2015. However, we know, according to text messages, that Nicholas did not arrive to Gypsy's house until the early morning of June the 10th. I think it was at like 3 o'clock in the morning whenever he arrived. And then they stayed in the home until about 6 o'clock in the morning on June the 10th. So here, Gypsy is actually clarifying to one creator who posted on June the 9th of 2024 about Dee Dee's passing. She's correcting the creator, saying, no, it wasn't on June the 9th. It was actually on June the 10th. And then she further explains, obviously Google gets a lot wrong because I know what day to regret for the rest of my life. However, Gypsy is now contradicting herself and her previous words from last year in her book and today.
This isn't healing. It's not growth. It's not honesty. It's image control, carefully edited, emotionally worded, and all about Gypsy. And the deception hasn't stopped. In fact, it's getting worse. She's still lying. And with each new version of her story, she doesn't just manipulate public sympathy, she clouds the truth in a case that already had too many unanswered questions. In court, Gypsy testified that she didn't realize she was a victim of medical abuse until after her arrest, when jail doctors finally explained her real health status. But in later interviews, and even in her own memoir, she completely flips the script, saying she knew all along and only kept quiet because she was scared. According to that version, murder was her only way out. So which is it? Did she find out after her arrest? Or was she fully aware before it all happened? You can't claim ignorance and awareness. You can't say you had no idea and say you were acting out of desperation from years of calculated abuse. Those are two completely different realities. They can't both be true, and here's where it gets even more unsettling. Her entire legal defense was built on the claim that Dee Dee had Munchausen by proxy, that she faked illnesses to get attention and sympathy, but according to verified FOIA medical records, that claim doesn't hold up. Every procedure Gypsy underwent was backed by actual diagnoses. She wasn't being poisoned. She wasn't being forced into unnecessary surgeries. She had a documented genetic condition, chromosome microdeletion disorder. Doctors treated her based on real symptoms and legitimate medical evidence, not because Dee Dee made it all up. So if the foundation of her defense was shaky from the start, and Gypsy keeps rewriting her own story, at what point do we stop giving her the benefit of the doubt?
I had bifocals when I was like 14.
14 with bifocals?
Mm-hmm. Now I'm also 32 with dentures. So. I'm an old lady. My teeth is something that I've always been really insecure about. The hospital gave me free dentures because chemotherapy and treatments like that will rot your teeth. I think I have 16 teeth left, and they're all caps. But underneath, like the cap, they shaved down the tooth, put the cap on with cement. So the teeth that I have remaining are no.
First off, she did not have chemotherapy. It is not easy to get chemotherapy. You can't just go in and say, oh, she had cancer. No, they run all kind of blood tests so that you get a specific kind of chemotherapy that goes for whatever cancer you have. Secondly, look at her teeth. Do you see the ones that don't have caps on? Do you see how they're shaped? Almost like shark teeth. And even now you see Gypsy's mouth almost like beaked. You know what I'm saying? Even with her new teeth. Why? Because this is a symptom of her microdeletion. If you go look up her microdeletion and like really dig into things about it, symptom of her microdeletion, man. It's pretty shitty. I don't know how I've never seen this clip before. It's pretty shitty that you would say something like this knowing you never had chemotherapy. And as far as your bifocals, if it wasn't for the surgeries you had on your eye, you'd probably be blind right now. You had like a severe case of strabismus. I hope I said that right because somebody got me the last time. Those damn surgeries are the reason you're able to walk around day and see, honey. So being like, I had bifocals at 14. That was your microdeletion. Yeah. Friends, y'all know what it is. This is all alleged entertainment purposes only, my opinion. And the rest, she said that dumb shit.
And the bad news is, a lot of people are still falling for it. Gypsy tells the public to move on, to forget what happened, all while she profits off the very crime she wants people to erase from memory. She literally says it's been 10 years, and people need to stop calling her the M word, the word that describes someone who ends another person's life. She wants the internet to stop using the label, stop reminding her, and pretend like none of it happened. But in the same breath, she keeps pushing the narrative of being an abuse victim. She wants everyone to keep talking about that part of the story, about how she was the broken child, the survivor, the girl who overcame years of suffering. But you can't have it both ways. You can't erase one side of history while demanding the other side be amplified. She doesn't get to tell people to stop bringing up the murder while she's out here producing TV shows, signing book deals, filming documentaries, and doing podcast tours all centered on, guess what? The murder. You don't get to say, let it go, when your entire brand is built on the thing you want the world to forget. You don't get to ask for privacy while putting your pain on sale. That's not just contradictory, it's manipulation. The message she's sending is loud and clear. Forget what I did, but remember what was done to me. That's not healing, that's performance. It's a controlled narrative where she plays both the victim and the hero, while skipping over the part where someone died because of her actions. And now, she's bringing Aurora into it, her baby, her so-called clean slate. Aurora is being positioned not just as Gypsy's daughter, but as her rebrand, her fresh start, her symbol of healing. But the problem is, Gypsy isn't just being a proud mom. She's using her daughter like a white canvas to paint over a past that was messy, violent, and real. Aurora isn't just a child in this story, she's being turned into a prop for redemption, a visual cue for the new, improved Gypsy, while the truth gets buried behind baby filters and soft-focus Instagram posts.
I dropped her gun on the table. She normally kept the gun in a safe in her bedroom, but she had used it to practice shooting earlier that week. And that's when I grabbed the gun and I threatened her with it. And before I knew it, I pulled the trigger as many times as I could. When I shot my mother, I just remember thinking like, oh my God, did I just do that? What did I just do? A couple of them hit her, a couple of them hit the wall, but the wounds were superficial. It barely grazed her. That's when I realized it was a BB gun. And it made me feel relieved because I did not intend to kill her. But the point is, I was shocked that I pulled the trigger at all.
Gypsy tells a story about picking up a BB gun and shooting Dee Dee 10 times with it.
I don't know about
Another
that.
story about she killed her?
No, there are some things Gypsy said she wants to talk to us about in person.
Okay.
So there's things that y'all probably know that we don't know, but good for her.
Motherhood doesn't magically erase the past. No baby announcement can wipe away deception, manipulation, or involvement in a life taken too soon. Gypsy Rose Blanchard seems to think that starting a family has rewritten her narrative, transforming her from the mastermind behind her mother's murder into someone breaking generational curses. On the surface, it's a redemptive arc, but dig deeper, and the picture gets murkier. Accountability remains the missing piece in her story. While Nick Gaudejohn sits in prison with no hope of freedom, Gypsy walks free, building a brand off her infamy. He followed her instructions to the letter, driven by desperation and her influence. Yet she's the one landing interviews, book deals, and viral moments. The imbalance is staggering. One life destroyed, the other monetized. Instead of confronting her role, she's carefully editing it, swapping hard truths for hashtags and filtered nostalgia. Even the timeline doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Court records and text messages confirm the murder occurred on June 10th, with Gypsy directing Nick step by step in the dead of night. Yet, in a recent Instagram post, she shifted the date to June 9th, framing it as an overnight event. When questioned, she doubled down with vague wording, claiming Nick arrived the evening before. But the evidence is crystal clear. He wasn't even at the house until the early hours of the 10th. It's a small detail, but telling. If the facts don't fit the narrative, just tweak them. Funny how memory works when your reputation's on the line. Conveniently fuzzy until receipts come out. Want the full breakdown? Stick around, hit like, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the tea. Notifications? Turn them on. Trust me, you'll want to be here for what's next.
1000% agree with this, but let's talk facts and not fairy tales. People keep screaming double jeopardy every time Gypsy Rose's name comes up, but that's not how the law works. Let's get into this and why it matters and why her plea deal does not make her untouchable. First of all, double jeopardy only protects you from being tried twice for the exact same crime. But if the evidence comes out that there was fraud, perjury, or manipulation was involved in any way when the plea deal was reached, that's a whole different legal lane. If you signed a deal based on a lie, whether you lied or the evidence was withheld, your deal can be challenged, okay? Especially if it was a big part of this criminal conspiracy or someone else took the fall based on the version of events. What makes this very different from everybody saying, oh, I told you before, everybody said that. But she said it in her own words in writing. Not only did she say it, she went in and changed her post, admitting to guilt and not just correcting it in the chat.
Nick's own police statements reveal a chilling efficiency. He admitted the act was over in minutes, no hesitation, no prolonged drama. Yet Gypsy's version stretches time, shifting dates and layering symbolism. Why post a sonogram on the same day as the murder? Is it deliberate misdirection, softening the horror with emotional whiplash? Or is it guilt masquerading as coincidence, an attempt to bury the ugliness beneath something tender? The inconsistencies aren't just gaps, they're red flags, and the deeper you dig, the more unsettling it gets. During interrogation, Gypsy feigned ignorance, sobbing that she didn't know her mother was dead. But now, she recounts her mother's final plea. "Don't hurt me." If she wasn't there, how could she remember those words? The story fractures under its own weight. Here's what we never got: a trial. No courtroom drama, no witnesses dissecting evidence under oath. She pleaded guilty early, shutting down scrutiny before it began. Why? Maybe because a jury would have spotted the cracks, the shifting timelines, the performative grief, the contradictions stacking up like dominoes. And then there's the tattoo. A permanent memorial etched into her skin, not for the mother she lost, but for the day she helped orchestrate her death.
She told on herself. And a plea deal doesn't mean you're innocent. It just means you admitted to guilt in exchange for a lighter sentence. But here's the kicker. The plea deal is a sworn testimony under penalty of perjury, and it's supposed to be the truth. So if you pled guilty and later it comes out that you lied, or you orchestrated more than you admitted to, or you manipulated the evidence, that's a problem. Let's say a co-defendant has a text showing that you were involved more than you pled to, okay, or you claimed. That's a new crime, lying under oath, and that can have a case reopened. So this double jeopardy that you guys keep screaming, I think a lot of people really aren't understanding, and that's why I really love this comment. Let's be clear. This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. Gypsy Rose deleted evidence, edited timelines, and tried to reframe the story to gain sympathy from the public. That matters, especially when she's now profiting off of it, writing books, telling stories, movie rights, publicly calling herself a victim while downplaying her very own role. People have the right to know the truth, and the judicial system has a right to hold her accountable. And we have a right as taxpayers to hold the judicial system responsible to review her case when there's inconsistencies, falsehoods, or manipulation.
That's not remorse, it's a macabre trophy. Most people would hide that shame, but Gypsy wears it like a badge, turning trauma into a brand. What does it say when someone profits from their own crime, spinning tragedy into content? She begs for closure while cashing in on the very story she wants us to forget. The irony? The more she talks, the less we believe.
For manipulation purposes only, Gypsy Rose Blanchard Euchre. Did you just admit that Nick didn't end your mom's life and that you did? Now, hey, look, listen. We all know, according to the documents, according to the text messages, and according to the evidence, Nick did not show up to Gypsy's and Dee Dee's house until the early morning of June 10th. All the documents say June 10th, June 10th. Why is Gypsy celebrating her mom's unaliving on June 9th? Was it to gain more sympathy and push it back a day for manipulation purposes only? Or the more she talks, the more she lets slip?
Gypsy Rose Blanchard isn't just moving forward, she's turning her past into profit. From brand partnerships to viral interviews, she's built an empire on the foundation of her mother's murder. The more criticism she faces, the faster she retreats into victimhood, framing skeptics as heartless or judgmental. But here's the uncomfortable question. What if she's still hiding something? The urgency with which she begs the public to move on feels less like healing and more like damage control. Every carefully staged photo of her daughter, Aurora, seems strategically placed, a shiny distraction from the grim reality lurking beneath. Is this child a symbol of new beginnings, or just a prop in Gypsy's relentless rebranding campaign? This isn't about denying someone a second chance. It's about recognizing manipulation when we see it. The truth doesn't vanish just because it's inconvenient, and until every inconsistency is addressed, the skepticism will remain.
I think Gypsy did the deed on the 9th. She had Nick fully believing that Dee Dee was just in there sleeping, and Nick went in and did it again. But we all know how Gypsy can manipulate a special needs boy. I think she's manipulated the whole fucking system. And before you even say it, stop right there. I used to be a Gypsy Rose supporter until I saw what she was doing when she got out of prison. She had me fooled until about a month after she got out. So what do you guys think? Do you think Gypsy ended her mother on June 9th and then had Nick believing he did it on the 10th? Or do you think she's just really prematurely posting the June 9th thing? It's really weird that you would put your daughter and your mother's anniversary in the same post, which is Manipulation purposes only.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget, real accountability starts with honesty. If you found this breakdown thought-provoking, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the stories everyone's talking about. Want to keep the conversation going? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and check out our other videos for more unfiltered analysis. Stay curious, stay critical, and we'll see you in the next one.